to share with you one story. I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I can't resist mentioning something here. I was raised by foreign-born parents, naturalized as American citizens. I came very late in my parents' life. My dad was 53 when I was born, and my mom thought she'd already been through a change of life, so I was in shock when I came along. But my dad, when he was 19, hid under a peasant woman's dress on a train to get to Hamburg, then stowed away on a steamer to come to America. Gutsy guy. He was born in 1881, so this was about the turn of the century. But he man of no education, just a good practical guy who just made it. Coming to a strange country and reading and writing, speaking English, it's gutsy guy. But anyway, so I grew up, my dad was really old enough to marry a grandfather. In other words, he was quite an unusual age difference. I got an appointment at the Naval Academy, and that was something that meant a lot to him. That blew him away. I mean, to go to college was a big deal in his mind, but the idea of going to the Naval Academy blew him away. And the way the academy works, you don't start in the fall, you start in the summer. In June, you go back for what they call plebe summer. You have 3 months of indoctrination and stuff to get ready for the brigade when it arrives in the fall. And at the end of plebe summer, there's what they call Parents' Weekend. That's the last freedom you've got for the plebe years. We used to do it in the old days. And so I went back. I got the appointment, went back in June to the academy, going through plebe summer. Of course, the big deal was Parents' Weekend to have my mom and dad come out to the academy. It turned out that summer he had an automobile accident. He was involved in a head-on collision, and he was about in his early 70s and overweight and thrown through the windshield. No one expected him to live. Turned out there wasn't a bone broken, that he was bruised up pretty badly, but family told me that his only dream when he was delirious in the hospital was he wanted to see me graduate. If he just see me graduate. But he seemed to recover enough so that come September for Parents' Weekend with a cane and whatever, he was ambulatory enough to travel with my mom to visit me at the academy. So, and that was neat. So I went through 4 years at the academy, and 4 years later, June week, he was able to come and see me graduate from the Naval Academy. That was a big deal for him. And the Air Force, in those days, both West Point and Annapolis supplied officers to the Air Force. The Air Force Academy hadn't started then. So it was a preferred option, and those that stood at the top of the class were able to get that kind of choice. So the Air Force, to spoil us rotten, offered us a couple of months of leave not to count as leave, and so we had a couple of months before we had to report for duty. So I spent the rest of that summer up and down the East Coast with my academy buddies before having to pick up my flight training stuff on the West Coast. Well, while I was on this trip, I got word that my dad was killed. So I flew back to California, and obviously, and for the funeral lesson. We were in the living room, and it blew me away to realize that he was killed in a head-on collision on the 4th anniversary of the first accident. God had given him 4 years, and I remember sitting there, just surprised me that. Because I was reminded of his prayer when he was he knew the Lord. He came to the Lord in the later years while I was in high school, and but all he wanted to do was see me graduate, and God gave him 4 years. But it blew me away because it's like God to do this. It was to the very day, the anniversary of his death. We realized was the anniversary as we put it all together of the accident 4 years earlier. So whenever I think of Hezekiah getting 15 years. Anyway.